Yesterday, during the general session, you mentioned a lot about configuring, enabling, and engaging, right? Based on that and the question of my colleague about Apple, do you believe that the open source concepts are now changing the business models of the companies?
I think we're still in the early days of it. What I would say is many companies are recognizing that well, let me back up a little bit. I think that the way that most companies are run and most of the business models that have been built in the past are built with driving efficiency in mind. How do I do things at scale? How do I get more efficient? The problem is efficiency is generally about taking variance out, which makes innovation really, really, really hard. And most organizations now realize I have to add more innovation into my organization, and my culture, my processes are all about taking variance out, which simply take innovation out. And so I think, I'll use an example. I was talking to the CEO of a very, very large global company, and the way he put it is, hey, we used to have to innovate once every 15 years, and then we'd spend 15 years exploiting that innovation. And so it was all about execution, and then start to run out into the patent or whatever it was, we would just have to buy and do innovation or focus more on innovation for a while, but most of the time we spent executing. He said now the world's changed so much and is moving so fast, we have to innovate all the time, we have to change our culture. And I think that's, I just want to be clear with people, this configure, enable, engage, it's not a better way to run an organization, it is a different way to run an organization in a different context. And that context, when you're operating in a greater degree of ambiguity, so your ability to optimize for a known outcome is less, and when you are more of the work content is about creativity or innovation versus executing something known, the model that I was talking about is more appropriate. So most companies are starting to recognize, wow, I have a model, I have a management system structure, leadership styles that's built to drive efficiency in a static environment. My world's changing and I have to drive more innovation, so I need to change with it. And different companies are at different places and starting to recognize that need for change. And so, but I think almost everybody has recognized I have to change. It's just a matter of people figuring out what that really means to change. You know, I always see companies go through this process. I shouldn't laugh about it. It's really, really painful. It's like, so these companies try to go through some type of a transformation to agile or whatever, and they fail. And they come back around and they're like, oh, it's a culture problem. I have a culture problem. And you want to say, yes, you do, but here's the problem, you can't change culture. So you can't change culture, because what happens is, you buy a software stack, you try a methodology, you try and it fails. You say, okay, I have a culture problem. Well, let me try to change my culture to be more whatever, innovative or this or that, whatever. And maybe it'll work for a project and then it goes away or it fails or it doesn't work at all. And the problem that they miss is, while it is a culture problem, you can't directly change culture. Culture is like morale. Morale is an output of the environment you work in, right? And a whole bunch of things. And you can temporarily improve morale. Buy people pizzas, bring in cookies, give them all a bonus. People will be happier for a while. But over time, that'll wear back off. If you haven't changed the context that makes people unhappy, they're not going to be happy. Culture is similar in the sense that culture is the output of the values, the leadership behaviors, the processes, the systems that all ultimately reward a certain set of behaviors that become your culture. And so the big thing I think companies have to recognize is, if I'm really going to go through some type of transformation, I hate to say this, technology is the easy part, right? We can bring in the technology, and yes, you have to think about process and agile methodology or DevOps or whatever process you want to pick. The culture change is the hard part, and the culture change the hard part because you actually have to get the leaders to change, right? And how you're behaving, what you're saying, how you're acting has to change in order to get the culture to change. And I always want to be careful on this. I'm not sitting here saying that people have to get all squishy, huggy, touchy-feely, right? I mean, I would argue Amazon is an incredibly innovative company, and Jeff Bezos is not the squishy type at all, right? But I'll give you an example. So I was at a bank a very large global bank a few weeks ago, and I was talking to the CEO and was saying, well, hey, you know, we want to pick a couple of big initiatives to go after in digital, and we're trying to figure out what those initiatives are. And I immediately said, no, time out, wrong question. Do not go tell your people, come back with a couple of initiatives, because your organization's already so risk averse that doing a couple big initiatives, nobody's really going to want to sign up, and things are going to get watered down. What you need to say is, in 90 days, come back with 10 proof of concepts. And in 90 days, we're going to kill at least 9 of them. But based on that learning after 90 days, then we're going to go back in 90 days later, I want to see 10 more proof of concepts. Okay, you've just now told the organization it's okay to experiment and fail, and I'm not going to get in trouble. So again, I'm not saying, so when I say you got to get leaders to understand their words matter and how they articulate things, how they reward things, how they structure the work like that are all things that ultimately lead to a different culture. So again, that's a simple one, but by going in and saying run 10 proof of concepts, you just told your organization it's okay to try something that might be a little bit more aggressive, and it's okay if it fails. As a matter of fact, I'm expecting it will. And so little things like that are, and there, you got to do 100 of those little things like that, are all ways that you are working to change behaviors and the messages you're sending to try to ultimately get the culture to start to change. And so those are the, if you can get leaders to recognize it starts with you changing, and that will ultimately lead to the culture changing, is the critical. Sorry, I know that's a long answer, but I'm passionate about this. This is when project fails, this is why they fail, right?
Yeah.
It's rarely because the technology didn't work, right?
Correct.